Hey y'all, I'm Hannah, and I recently weeded the chaff out of my makeup collection, section by section, as a way of rounding out the old year and kicking off the new, which is something that I do every year. This video is going to be a recap of that process with before and after footage of my personal vanity space, some of the numbers rounded up, and a bit of reflection on how I feel that it went and how I feel that this declutter was different from the declutters of past years. Just like last year, a quick reminder here at the beginning that the majority of the makeup that I own, not all of it, but the majority of it, the makeup that I kept and the makeup that I decluttered, is makeup that I only own, that I only ever owned because I review makeup on YouTube as part of my job. Owning makeup helps me do my job, it helps me earn a living, and I handle a lot of makeup over the course of the year as part of that job. I made a whole video about this last year, a whole video about how the declutters that you see on YouTube are fundamentally different from the declutters that you might do at home with your own stuff. And I'll link that in the cards and in the description box down below in case you haven't seen it. I just wanted to give that disclaimer afresh this year. And now let's get into the meat of the video. So let's start by looking at the before footage of my vanity space upstairs in my bedroom. Obviously, the biggest problem here is organization and cleaning. Things have gotten away from me a little bit over the past few months. Cleaning and organizing have been low priority, and this space has really suffered from it. So that's one of the things that I addressed at the end of this project, one of the major things that I'm addressing in this video. Inside the drawers, back before the declutter, the situation kind of varied from drawer to drawer, from type of product to type of product. The eyeshadow drawer wasn't bad, relatively unchanged from the end of last year, actually. The blush and base drawer felt over full to me. I would say that was the main problem. And the lip product drawer was the worst because it had hair accessories in it too. The lip products were all over the place and disorganized inside of the drawer. It was a total mess. Weirdly, the insides of the drawers though weren't as chaotic as the space at large, but I knew that my starting place had to be gathering together all of my products in each part of my collection, going through it section by section, decluttering section by section, resetting the drawers, and then kind of radiating out with organization and cleaning from there. So I took all of the makeup from those drawers, and I also gathered it from where it had become scattered across various surfaces and from various containers. And I filmed 4 individual collection section declutters, and those have already posted on YouTube. So of course I'll link them in the description box down below. And I'm also going to recap them for you now. But first I'm going to talk a little bit about my general approach to this end of year declutter at large, which is something that I figured out, I articulated for myself as I made my way through decluttering each drawer. As I talked it out with you all on camera, going through product type by product type, I realized that I'm wanting less right now, largely so that I will be excited about wearing makeup at a time when I'm naturally wearing less. And I'm naturally wearing less partly because of recent lifestyle shifts, but largely because of a sea change, an evolution in my makeup style that actually long preceded parenthood. I did make a video about all of the many factors that contributed to that large and intense sea change in my makeup style. I'll link that in the cards and in the description box too. I think that 2 things are going on. One is that I'm feeling easily overwhelmed and having a harder time making decisions. I have decision fatigue much of the time right now. And I think that that is specifically because of my current life circumstances. That's a matter of lifestyle change. But the change in my makeup style towards something more minimal and natural, that was a long time coming and I think is larger than my current circumstances and is likely to be more permanent. In any case, both of those shifts, both of those circumstances mean that I want a makeup collection that feels small enough to be welcoming to me. But at the same time, I know that my circumstances are evolving, and in a matter of months, possibly, I will experience a renewed capacity to choose between products and maybe even a renewed desire to wear makeup more frequently. So much is up in the air right now. I don't want to be too harsh or make too many rash decisions. So my declutters this year were tempered by that. that. Basically, I gave myself a lot of grace, allowing myself to let go of things without a lot of angst or deliberation if it just felt right in the moment to let them go. And also not pressuring myself, as I have sometimes in the past, to squeeze it down to the tightest possible edit. So I separated my collection into 4 videos: blush, base, which covers a lot of subcategories, lip products, and eyeshadows. In the blush declutter, I ended up decluttering more than I expected. I think I went into the declutter series really foregrounding the lenience? It's both. Leniency and lenience are both words. No wonder I was confused. So I went into the declutter series really foregrounding the lenience that I was giving myself. And I kind of expected it to be a light sweep. And then easily, kind of effortlessly and naturally, I decluttered almost half of my blushes. So that was a bit of a surprise. I ended up letting go of 15 blushes and keeping 17. But I have a confession to make. I ended up going back and saving the Gucci blush from the declutter. So many of you love that blush. I get comments about how great it is from you. It's the Gucci blush in rosy brown. And those comments were echoing in my head. And at the same time, when push came to shove, it was really hard for me to part with that beautiful packaging. And I decided to give it one more chance. So I actually let go of 14 and kept 18 of my blushes. Base makeup. So I said that this covers a lot of subcategories because I consider base to be like the basic look. That's complexion, mascara, and brows, basically. So when I'm putting on makeup but doing the least, I always do my brows, I always do a little bit with my skin, and I will often put on a little bit of mascara, which means that this category, this declutter video, included foundations, concealers, primers, mascaras, and brow products. This was a gentle culling. I kept 22 products and I decluttered 13. I mean, kind of a gentle culling, also kind of 1/3 gone. Lip products. So it's all of the lip products, lip glosses, lipsticks, lip liners. It was all together in one video. I kept 39 lip products. This is a category that I really love. And I'm getting ahead of myself here, but I'm really excited about the way that they're laid out in a drawer now after this declutter. I love lipsticks so much and I don't wear them the most. And I'm always looking for a way to kind of reconcile those two things. So this was yet another step on that journey. I kept 39 lip products and I decluttered 26. Eyeshadow. So everything that is an eyeshadow is included in the one eyeshadow declutter this year. So eyeshadow palettes, standalone eyeshadows, eyeshadow singles in their own packaging is what I mean by that, and individual single shadows in magnetic pans housed in a magnetic palette. I only decluttered 10 items of makeup in this category. It was the most gently decluttered category this year. And I actually didn't go through and count what I kept in that video, but I think it was about 30 pieces of makeup. And that's counting my magnetic palette of singles as one piece of makeup because that's kind of how I've come to think of it. So these are the totals. By that count, by those counts that I just gave you, which are imprecise because, there's always like a lipstick or a lip gloss left behind in a purse or a pocket. But those numbers say that I decluttered 64 things and kept 108. And that means that I decluttered something between 35 and 40% of my makeup. Kind of a lot. It seems like kind of a lot when I say it that way. But the thing that struck me the most, the thing that I was happiest about, was not the percentage at all, but the overall volume of makeup, both the before and the after numbers. I didn't feel like I had piles and piles of makeup when I went into the declutter. It's still a lot. Even after my collection is decluttered, it's still a lot. I mean, maybe not considering that this is my job, but just as makeup goes. But I had less to deal with, less on my hands, and felt less overwhelmed than I did at the beginning of my declutter last year. And I'll reflect on that a little bit more in the outro to this video. But let's get right into the very exciting, juicy next step, which was to organize my vanity, to deal with all of the extra stuff that was floating around. What was covering my vanity surface? It was some skincare, a lot of PR that I hadn't corralled or made a final decision about, PR that I haven't featured yet. I had to deal with all of that stuff and put my newly edited makeup collection away in my vanity drawers. So let's see how that went. So first I had to deal with trash, recycling, and empties. So I got a trash bag for cardboard recycling and cleared out some stuff to put into that bag. I started an empties bag, which was that canvas machete bag. I replaced my trash can liner just for a fresh start and just cleared away a bunch of stuff that had collected in that corner that doesn't belong there. So a lot of it was recycling, a toy, a baby toy. There was a bunch of other random stuff too. So once I had done that, I got out my trusty stick vacuum. Shout out to the Samsung bespoke stick vacuum. Love it so much. And then I did something I've been dying to do for a couple of years actually, which was to put some liner in my drawers. Some of you suggested this last year and I had already had the idea. I just hadn't had time to do it. But this year I made sure that I made time to get the liner before I filmed this. And I love how it came out. I actually really, really like this liner. It's just a random one that I found on Amazon. It's great because it's sticky enough to stick, but not so sticky that I couldn't easily pull it up and reposition it a bunch of times to get it in the right place. It even stuck to itself, and then it was really easy to unstick it from itself. It was the perfect level of stickiness for me to execute the task easily. And it's very beautiful. I'll of course link it down below. So even though the top of my vanity was still messy, I started the rest of the process by putting away the decluttered makeup so that they would kind of have that grounded place from which to finish figuring out where everything else needed to go. And that's what I did next. I just went piece by piece with all of the random stuff that was on top of my vanity. I made the big decision to move all of my hair stuff to another location. There's never really been room for it on the vanity, and that's always been one of the things that causes my vanity space to get out of hand. So I moved it to another part of the house. I weeded some more empties out of my skincare, cleaned up my skincare shelf and reorganized it a little bit, and then I got out this beautiful jewelry box, which was a Christmas gift from my father. My jewelry collection has completely outgrown the small case that I had before, and it was so satisfying to put my jewelry away in this new, beautiful box. I'll link that below too, the jewelry box if it's still available. And here's how it ended up looking. So much clearer. I mean, first of all, having the drawer liners in the drawers makes it so much easier to store makeup there. I don't need dividers or boxes of any kind anymore because the makeup basically stays put even when I'm opening and closing the drawers. It stays grouped. And it's nice to have it just lying there for a couple of reasons. One is that it naturally returns to that state anyway. Even if I try to organize it into little containers, I always end up with the makeup just lying in the drawers. So having a surface in the bottom of the drawers against which it looks beautiful when it's lying there, it's a vast improvement on this space for me. And the other thing I like is just being able to see everything. I like having things just lying out there because I have that clarity when I open the drawer, but it just didn't look good on the bare wood. And it always was rolling around when I open and close the drawers. So I am over the moon about these drawer liners. And of course, the overall space is just much, much more usable and calmer. A lot of that has to do with me finally clearing out all of the empties, garbage, and recycling and corralling all of the PR and the products that I'm still testing into those crates at the end of the bench. But that's something that I'll need to do time and time again. For me, it's just a natural cycle. I do my best to maintain, but my spaces get messy and then I reset them, and that's okay. The decluttering itself was also pretty easy and casual overall, even though it was 35 to 40% of my collection. It didn't feel effortful. And that too is something that simply happens from time to time in order for me to maintain balance, especially because of my job. So that's all to be expected, I think, when it comes to the overall space. But there were some major systems changes this year, and those are the drawer liners, which again were a smash hit, already discussed it, and the jewelry box, which I also love. It takes up a lot of space. If it's something that you're considering, just be aware. It is big, but it's worth it to me to have so much breathing room for my jewelry collection, which used to be quite small, but has grown, and like my makeup, is something that I engage with a lot and use for work. When I'm preparing to film, I'm often looking through my jewelry trying to decide what would be the best jewelry to wear on camera, or what will complement my makeup look or my clothes the best for that video. And now with this box, I can really see what I have, and I can choose from everything instead of just combing through a tangled mess dress and like wearing the same 3 pairs of earrings over and over again, which is what I had been doing. Just sitting down and getting ready to film this part of the video, which I did this morning after having done all of the resetting and decluttering, it was an absolute pleasure. And this is the best, I ended up using products that I haven't used in months, because when I looked at what I had, for example, when I looked at my skincare and I was thinking about which primer to use, my illuminating primers were all there looking equally tempting. And so instead of just defaulting to the thing that I've been using all the time, I considered all of them and ended up picking one that I haven't used in a long time, the Natasha Denona Skin Glass. And honestly, I feel like I've never loved it more. It was like using something new, almost like using something for the first time, but better than that because it's something that's tried and true for me, even though I tried it and it became true a bit in the past and I had kind of forgotten. And it was like that with almost everything that I put on my face getting ready. And it was very easy to clear the decks, put everything back away in its place after I was done. But the most gratifying part to me, and the thing that's the most interesting, because I feel like it's a macro quality, it's like zooming out and looking at the big picture of my life and my relationship with things and with myself. The thing that's the most gratifying is that there's been a measure of stability in my collection and in the way that I organize and interact with my collection this year. Some things changed, but a lot has stayed the same since the end of last year, the end of 2022. The general organization of the drawers, the overall amount of stuff, my staple products have stayed the same. And that, it makes me feel like I'm moving in a good direction in terms of getting to know myself deeply and to deeply know what will work the best for me. And that's surprisingly refreshing, especially because the past 5 or 6 years, the 5 or 6 years leading up to 2023 have involved so many upheavals and revolutions in my personal relationship with stuff, and so many actual physical upheavals of me and my life. So many moves to new spaces and stints in temporary spaces that required new systems and new strategies. It is strikingly wonderful to see the continuity between how I started 2023 and how I ended it, at least in terms of my relationship with these belongings and the rituals that happen in this corner of my home. And I'll put last year's version of this video, the one you're watching now, the declutter recap, I'll put last year's version of this video in the description box down below too, in case you want to watch it and compare and see what I'm talking about. So that's it. This concludes my end of 2023 declutter series. Here we are in the middle of January, but we got there. Thank you all for being so patient with me. Content is a little bit slow right now, but I'm excited that it's January. I'm excited that it's the new year. I have some New Year's content on the calendar already, although at this rate, it might not be out until the end of January, but I'm working on it. It's coming. Again, I appreciate you endlessly for being here, and I hope that you're taking extra good care of yourself so that you can be the most effective version of yourself as you do your work in the world.